and welcome to Quality of Life Radio, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa. You know, it's our Quality of Life show. And we always love to talk with Dr. Jackie. Dr. Jackie Eubany is a cardiologist, a board-certified cardiologist and electrophysiologist, and she's the author of the best-selling book, Women and Heart Disease, The Real Story. You can get it at womenandheartdiseasebook.com. But she joins us every third Wednesday. It's our Wellness Wednesdays with Dr. Jackie to talk about our heart health, especially for women. But today we are going to focus on heart-healthy travel for those who have heart disease, and then what happens if something happens when you're out and about, and also the benefits of travel, because I know Dr. Jackie, just like all of our medical practitioners around the world, has been super busy, but she managed to get some time out, like everybody's starting to travel again, and she went to the Galapagos Islands, and so I know she got some much needed rest, so we want to find out how good is that for your heart. So welcome back, Dr. Jackie. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure being on with you guys.
Yeah, we always have fun with you.
Yes.
And, thanks for keeping, serious medical stuff fun, and keeping us informed.
Yes, that's the only way to learn it. Make it fun.
Yeah, I think the last time we talked, we were talking about, the valves of your heart and, the whole, about how we don't want to, basically fill up our valves with bad stuff. So we have to eat healthy, do healthy things because we want our heart to be healthy. But I know we talked about lifestyle tips, food tips in the last couple episodes, but lifestyle tips, part of it you actually put in there is travel or do something you enjoy. So how do you feel after coming back from Galapagos? Do you think that helped your heart?
Oh, absolutely. I feel great. I feel so relaxed. I feel like I've been recharged, and I'm just more focused now that I'm back to work. So it was a much needed break. That was just, it was a spiritual experience. It was just great. I would recommend
that
it
is
to
awesome.
everyone. Yes, absolutely.
Did you see iguanas?
Busy. What was
Go
that?
ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, we get so busy with our lives that we just, neglect taking care of ourselves. And when we travel and we just, get away from everybody and just, cut ties with our phones, we're able to relax a little bit. And that's definitely heart healthy.
And I think also, too, we don't do the snack thing. Like when you're working from home now, and a lot of people are still working from home, that refrigerator is pretty close.
That's right.
I don't know. You may start eating things that you're not supposed to because you're on vacation and you get to eat new things. And so you have to balance that. But, one thing, too, with you going to Galapagos, I wanted to know, did you see the iguanas and the tortoises and the seals and the birds?
Yes.
Yeah.
We saw everything. The marine iguanas, the penguins, the giant tortoises. They were awesome to see. And then some species that were unique to the island, like the Darwin finches or the red-footed boobies, the blue-footed boobies. It was awesome. It was awesome traveling to all these islands and seeing the native wildlife.
Can you snorkel there?
Actually, I did snorkel. Yes, you can snorkel. You can snorkel, and I wasn't on a scuba diving tour, but there's scuba diving tours, and they take you to places where you're allowed to scuba dive. But yes, I got to snorkel and saw some, nice fish, and it was overall a great trip.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is a bucket list destination for sure for people. And do you think by being out on the water that helps in relaxation and then also being in nature?
Yes, for me, those being out in water or even being in nature is extremely relaxing for me. But one thing, your cell phone doesn't work, so you cut that out. You come to realize just how much you're on the phone all the time, whether you do texting, calling, checking out this news and that news outlet. And when you just cut that out, you have a little bit more time to, self-reflect or meditate or, just be more mindful and conscious about yourself. And it's definitely a good spiritual experience.
I think you bring up some really good points about the phone. I mean, we, with us traveling full time and going into parks, suddenly the phone doesn't work. Neither does GPS. And sometimes you end up in really weird places, which is fun for us because it's a new thing. And so there's like an excitement, like when we sit and do a bunch of work. Everyone knows we pet sit as well as we travel. It's kind of a cool way of usually having really good internet and being able to work. And we do a bunch of work. We hang out with animals, which helps. We know that I want to do a whole segment on dogs and cats and having pets, because we know the huge benefit of, like, they'll come up and you've been sitting there for 3 hours straight. You need to get up and throw the ball. Get outside, take me for a walk. So there's all of that that's really healthy. But when the phone goes away, there's kind of an excitement about it. It's kind of like, that's it, And I wonder about, like, how many people are getting news alerts which trigger anger with what's going on politically around the world, and also depression because of what's going on in the world. I mean, you look at what's happening in Ukraine, and watching COVID numbers. So all these painful stimulants, can that lead to hypertension and high blood pressure?
Absolutely, because all these things trigger a stress response in your body. And this stress response can definitely lead to you having higher blood pressure. So I mean, cutting yourself from all of that stuff is definitely helpful. To help you relax, and you don't even have to worry about these things. And it's definitely good for your heart and for your health.
And now, what about if you have heart disease? And I know we've talked on shows about if diabetes and heart disease are connected. So you really want to keep your lifestyle in a healthy zone. But traveling now, because COVID is still out there. I keep forgetting, like, oh yeah, it's, because, then you go out and some of the areas we're in, people are just not wearing masks anymore. And I'm like, even in a market, and I'm like, dude, I just can't make myself be that, like, brave about it. I don't care how many vaccines and boosters. I just still feel like until it's 100% gone, don't risk it. You know what I mean? So if you already have, like, heart disease, diabetes, do you think that people should still be wearing a mask and being extra cautious? What do you think on all of that? I mean, I'm still being just really cautious about being around people and closed places.
Yeah, I think you should, follow the guidelines of wherever you are, in terms of knowing the numbers and knowing if the numbers are low, if the numbers are high, what the regulations for masks are in the areas that you're in. I know when I went to the Galapagos, they're very strict about it. We had to wear a mask all the time. We got tested. We all got tested before we got on the cruise. And once we got on the cruise, we could take our mask off because there was no one else other than us, on that ship, and everyone had tested negative, and everyone had their vaccine cards. So once we got on the cruise, we could take off our masks. Every time we got on islands where there were people, we had to wear a mask. So they were very strict about that. So I know now in some places the numbers are, coming down quite a bit. Some of the rules are being relaxed. Even in the hospital, some of the rules are being relaxed. So I would say if you're uncomfortable going places without a mask, then you should wear a mask. But other than that, just really follow the guidelines of whatever that area is recommending, and making sure that the numbers are really coming down. Because, honestly, I don't think that there will ever be a time where there will be no COVID. I think COVID will eventually become endemic, because this virus keeps mutating. It'll probably end up mutating to something that is not as virulent or as deadly as the initial virus, and we'll just have to live with it like the flu and get vaccines every year and those kinds of things. So I just don't see this thing going away ever, but we'll see.
Yeah, because
I don't like the mutating part. That just sounds side-eye.
I don't like that word even. but surely down the road a bit, when scientists have really more and more time to put into this whole problem, they'll probably come up with a vaccine or something that would be more permanent, like our polio vaccines. You don't have to keep taking them over and over, you know?
Yeah, well, this virus just mutates so much. But we'll see. I'm hoping that would be the case. Even the flu virus, the vaccine is different every year because the virus also mutates. We're just hoping it becomes something not as virulent or not as deadly. And then we can find some way to live together, like
Yeah.
we do with the flu, with the flu. But yeah, that's probably ultimately what's going to end up happening.
Now, if you have heart disease, are you still more susceptible, or if you have diabetes, to getting COVID?
Not susceptible to getting COVID, but more likely to get very sick from COVID.
Okay.
And more likely to end up in the hospital with the more severe forms of COVID. So you should definitely be cognizant of that if you have a lot of medical problems.
Okay, and then let's get to if you have heart disease and travel. I know we've talked about this a few years ago, but it's in the back of my head always is medications being interesting, and also if you have heart disease, knowing, do you think people have to check out, like there's an urgent care around the corner from the hotel kind of thing?
Well, it's good to know.
I think it would be good to know depending on how sick you are. But one of the things that I definitely would recommend is getting some kind of travel medical insurance or an evacuation insurance. This way, if something happens to you, it's covered. And I guess knowing if there's a hospital close by, but wherever you are, the hotel, hopefully they'll be able to tell you how to get to the nearest hospital, or they would call the emergency. And then of course the most important thing is making sure you have medical insurance that covers that, or evacuation insurance that will be able to get you to a high level facility depending on how sick you get.
That's a good point, because you never know. If you're somewhere remote, you might need a helicopter to pull you out and take your medications with you, right? That's something too, because even if you're on blood pressure medicine, things that I've read is like you can't just stop your blood pressure medicine. It's not a good thing.
You should definitely if you're traveling, you should definitely have your medications with you in person. So make sure you carry it with you on your carry-on so that you can stick to your medication regimen, the timeline. And also, in case your luggage gets lost and you don't want to be out of your medications for, several days. So make sure you keep it on you. I also think it's a good idea to maybe write down a list of your medications and your medical problems and carry that along with you in case, you're really sick and you can't talk you're just unable to communicate. You can always you can always show people that list, and if the healthcare providers know your medical condition and know what meds you're on, they're able to tend to you and make a diagnosis a lot quicker and take care of you a lot quicker.
And then when something happens and you're traveling, like if say you do really forget your medicine, or you get robbed, or because things happen and people do forget. It's especially it's like how many people do we know that got to the airport and forgot their passport? And I'm just, don't even look at me. But it's things like that happen, and we could say, don't forget your passport, don't forget, but there's that scurrying to go, and everyone's like, it's just sometimes very stressful to pack and get ready to go. That's why we just go on the road 100%, because then it's like, that's what we do. It's like, get over. But that there is that part of, forgetfulness. And, do you get calls as a doctor where people go, I left my medicine, now I'm like in Cancun, how am I going to, maybe you can get medicine better in Mexico. I don't know, but Mexico or Canada. But do you get calls from other doctors or pharmacists for your patients?
I would say I've never gotten a call like that ever in all my years of practicing. But I'm pretty sure stuff like that happens, and maybe patients don't end up calling their doctor. But if you're in the United States, your doctor can always send medication to any pharmacy that's close by you. But it probably gets a little bit more tricky when you're overseas. So it's definitely important to pack your medicines, put it next to your passport, because without your passport you're not leaving the country. So put the medicines with the passport to make sure it's going with you on your trip.
Yeah, and to
I
make
guess the other option, the other option is if you're overseas, you can try to go to a local pharmacy to find the medications, similar kind of medications, but that would be very difficult. So just make sure you carry your medicines with you.
It's really good to take your meds and to maybe make sure you have more than enough. Because I'm, going in and refilling a prescription can be really dicey in some countries.
Yeah.
Because they go, well, we don't have this, but we have the next best thing. And you're like, uh-oh. Because now you're traveling and possibly have a reaction to a new drug. So
so no, you wouldn't want that. You would want make sure you would want your doctor to approve of any medications you take. So no, you wouldn't go there and pick from their list.
Yeah, I know. It's like, here, pick a drug.
Well, and it's interesting. Like, there's stimulants. Like when you travel, I was just thinking, like Taylor Hawkins, the drummer for the Foo Fighters, sadly, passed away of an overdose, and he was clean for so long and healthy because he's had an overdose before. And then he goes to Colombia, man. You know what's going on in Colombia, like, and sadly passed away. And they're saying that his heart was just like within hours, like doubled or tripled in size or something. Like his heart became so big, and that's crazy. Is that what happens from the drug itself, or is that what happens when you have a heart attack, that your heart just like inflames that large? Because the coroner was talking about, like, this was one of the biggest hearts he'd seen, or something like that.
Given his history, it's most likely from drugs, because we know that drugs cause damage, physical damage to the heart that can show up 10, 15 years later after you even stop. So given his history, he was 55 years old. He was most likely a heavy drug user. That the drugs are probably the cause of his heart just, scarring down and just enlarging, and eventually, and that would eventually cause death.
That's sad. And you always talk about don't do it once because it'll still get you later. So don't touch it. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
But it's different. Those hardcore drugs are hardcore. It's
really are.
And we're getting into the world of marijuana tourism, of dispensaries being here, there, everywhere, and so that's a whole other thing happening. But when people go on vacation, I look at like spring break, and there's that, or you go to Vegas, right? All of a sudden, I'm in Vegas. I'm going for it. That crazy, how it just can happen, and over drinking and things like that. So how do we balance all that? Because you do get excited, you do want to eat the steak, you do want to have the second, third glass of wine. So what is your recommendation so that you can be naughty, but like really not end up in the hospital?
Yeah, well, if you have cardiac disease, like if you've had a heart attack or you have heart failure, you definitely need to be careful when you travel, because foods like salts can definitely throw you into heart failure. So you just really have to, make sure you stay well hydrated, and you must watch your salt, because if you overindulge in salt, you definitely will end up in the hospital. And of course, excessive alcohol use. It's okay to drink a 5-ounce glass of wine here and there, but when you travel, you just have to be mindful. If you engage in excessive alcohol use and you're taking your medications and you're eating unhealthy, you could end up in the hospital while you're overseas. So you need to be mindful of that.
Exactly. And then that's when that list comes in handy. But because you do want to be naughty. It's like the holidays. I feel that's exactly what, the holiday season, and you go to the store and you see the Christmas cookies, and I always hear Dr. Jackie like, Lisa, no, you can have one cookie, but you can't have the whole box. So that's what vacations, you want to be silly.
I think for most people who aren't very sick, who don't have severe chronic medical issues, it's okay to indulge every once in a while. But if you do have chronic issues, if you have heart failure, if you have, bad valvular disease, if you have heart attacks, those people usually can't afford to splurge, because one splurge usually means a hospital stay. So, yeah.
That's not fun. It's not
No.
fun.
No. I mean, what about, okay, so there's also overdoing it, and I know, like, if someone, starts going for a hike and they think, they're feeling Rambo-like, but their body's not used to it, can that hurt your heart?
Yeah, if you're not used to vigorous physical activity, you probably shouldn't start doing it on your vacation. We generally recommend, especially, if you don't exercise much, and especially if you have chronic heart disease, you should if you want to start an exercise regimen, you should definitely start slow, and don't push it. Actually, first of all, you need to speak with your doctor and make sure the doctor is okay with you exercising. And if they clear you to exercise, then definitely start slow. Don't run marathons. Listen to your body. If you get tired, you should stop, but start slow and build up, as you tolerate as time goes on.
Especially in different altitudes, because I found that for me, that makes a big difference, the altitude. I mean, Rocky Mountain High is not that easy.
I was going to say, Nancy doesn't like to get high. She just wants wine, but she doesn't want to get high.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fact. In high altitude, the oxygen level is a little bit low. So most of us with normal lungs will have a little bit of difficulty. But if you do have a chronic medical or, chronic heart or lung issue, it's worse for you, trying to breathe, when there isn't that much oxygen up there in the first place. So yes, there will be a little bit of struggle. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but it would really depend on how sick you are. It depends on how sick you are, whether or not you should go up to high altitude. And I would recommend you speak with your doctor before planning trips that are high altitude, like going to Peru.
Yeah, it's gonna go instead of Machu Picchu.
I know a lot of people that got sick trying to hike up Machu Picchu, and and then but they're saying that you have to drink a lot of water. You need to hydrate and hydrate and hydrate, which is always good because that brings in oxygen too. But when you're talking about the lungs and their connectivity with the heart, what about going places that are like really polluted? Can that, because even like if you get asthma, can like an asthma attack affect your heart?
Well, there isn't a direct correlation between asthma and heart disease, unless if you have maybe chronic. No real direct correlation, because asthma patients, you're supposed to take your medicine. If you have an asthma attack, hopefully you can take your medications and open up the airways that are bronchospasmed or spasmed down. And once you open it up, I mean, everything should be okay from there. But no, there is no real link with heart attacks or heart failure or those kinds of things. No.
Okay, so all right, so we have to kind of behave. If you've got heart disease, behave yourself. Don't go to the doctor or anything like that, and don't overdo it. Because then, what about like being overly stimulated? Because we always talk about, oh my, I'm going to have a heart attack if this happens, or I get that kind of scare. Like say you go in a haunted house, and then you really, just really get scared. I mean, I know people that really almost had a nervous breakdown in one, but and then and then like look at you, you've dived in, you went in that cage where you see sharks and you do things like that. I mean, what happens if you decide, hey, I'm going to go bungee jump, and it really scares the heck out of you? I mean, can you have a heart attack from doing something? Like pushing yourself beyond that kind of fear.
Can you really be scared to death?
Well,
I mean, you may pee your pants first. I know that, but
there is a heart condition that's brought on by stress. But when we say stress, we talk about extreme stress or just emotionally distraught, like hearing that a loved one passed away, or something very emotional that can lead to heart failure, and symptoms that are very similar to heart attack. But it would have to be extremely, just like an extreme emotional event. Rarely do you hear of somebody bungee jumping or doing those high adrenaline things causing you to go have a heart attack. But yeah, there is a condition called stress-induced cardiomyopathy that happens again with just extremely emotional event.
Okay, but on the other side of the coin, just want to keep it back to travel is good for you and good for your heart and soul. And, and there's also kinds of travel that you do that are like more like yoga retreats and things like that can be really like going bird watching with a nice little walk. We saw a bald eagle the other day when we went on a hike. It was really cool.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I completely agree. I think everyone should go on vacation and, do something fun and relaxing to you. I definitely like the idea of yoga retreats, meditation retreats. Those are very relaxing and they help you recharge so that you can come back and face your busy life that you lead every day.
So we have to really look at the heart like your battery of your car.
Yeah. Yes. It needs to be recharged.
And sometimes people plan so much in a vacation, they come back needing a vacation, So, sometimes it's worth it just pick a few things and see them well and enjoy them rather than rushing through and trying to see a whole country in 2 days or something crazy.
Yes, I definitely would agree with that.
Yeah, because sometimes it gets really hectic.
Yeah, or travel like us. You just keep seeing things. But it is true. Like when we do our like media trips, like to a place, it will be. It's like you're in a new place every 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the activity.
Yeah,
it's so quick, so fast, and you have to document, and you go, and like, there's. I mean, people won't see a lot of from like what our work is. You'll start probably 3, 4 sometimes in the morning because you're filming restaurants doing their bread or bed and breakfast doing recipes or whatever, and then you could go all the way till 11 midnight, and it's that fast paced. And then after that, I'm just like, okay, where's the beach? I need to just sit, and I don't want to have to wake up. I don't want anyone to wake me up, but then I'll still wake up. But it's like there's something about not having to wake up at a specific time that is just, I don't know, my whole body goes, I really like that idea, even though I'll still get up at some stupid hour in the morning. Just having that, I think that's a stress thing for people about having to wake up to do things, I think that's a part of going on vacation is, Nancy's right. Don't overbook yourself. It gets,
you don't enjoy it, it becomes work.
Exactly.
Yeah, it becomes work instead of fun.
Well, it depends on your personality too, because I know people that if you take that away from them, they're not going to have a good time.
Right.
So
you're right about that. You're right about that.
Everyone's personality, but I'm so glad you went to the Galapagos.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yes, it was definitely on my bucket list, and I'm glad I got to do it.
Cool.
And I definitely would recommend it to everybody, really.
And I think there's something about watching wildlife and birds. You're focused on something very positive, outdoors, and it really, like you're saying, you get more in tune with yourself and more in tune with what's around you instead of the little beep beep.
Yeah, it's a connection. You get to connect to nature, which is where we came from. So it's a good idea. Yeah.
It's awesome. Speaking, you're hanging out in Darwin's territory.
I know, that's so fascinating. That's so cool.
So when you're on the water going in there, did you think of like Darwin and all his findings and theories and like what it was like to be, isn't it the HHS Beagle or something like that?
HMS Beagle. His Majesty's or Her Majesty's ship. Beagle.
Yeah, it was just amazing to think about how they came all the way here on the ship and landed on this island, and how he started doing these experiments and writing these his research. It's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
It's pretty smart dude. He was pretty smart.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that's the thing about medicine and science. It's always evolving, and I think that's what's so hard for people to grasp is you go with what the best you know, and then it could change tomorrow. I mean, Dr. Jackie, one day we can drink coffee, the next day we can't. And I'm saying the world will not be a good place if Lisa doesn't get her coffee. So it's always okay.
Yes. For world peace, Lisa must have coffee.
Okay, well, no, that's another heart thing. What about coffee? Because we had a friend who had heart disease, and he did have a heart attack and a stroke, and later he did go back to smoking, which I know is the big no-no. That's the big no-no. But we still, the coffee was just, it was terrible. And we have names for it to this day. It was like, what was the point of even having it? But apparently someone told him to not drink. I don't know, of all things, he decided that's going to be what he behaves with. And I was just, I don't know what the point was if you're still smoking and eating steak and drinking cocktails, you know. So, but the coffee, is that a big deal for, you know, if you have heart disease?
It depends on what your condition is. If you have an arrhythmia, or what we call abnormal heart rhythm, where your heart beats too fast or something, then things like caffeine or stimulants can exacerbate those conditions. So if you have one of those conditions called, we call it supraventricular tachycardia, atrial fibrillation, all these arrhythmias that can be triggered by coffee. If you have one of those conditions, your doctor might tell you to cut out caffeine completely.
Wow. Well, that would suck.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be happy. I mean, because that even takes out tea and chocolate.
Yeah, because there's some teas that have caffeine in them. Yeah, and chocolate, absolutely.
Yeah.
So just don't have those medical conditions, that's all.
Yeah, black tea from England. That can make your heart go pitter-patter.
I know a few things that can make my heart go pitter-patter, but we won't talk about them on the air. Dr. Jackie, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Everyone, Dr. Jackie's on every third Wednesday here. It's our Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Jackie. But in the meantime, go check out her book. It is Women in Heart Disease, The Real Story. You can go to womeninheartdiseasebook.com. It's a bestseller. You can get on Amazon, all those places. And if your local bookshop doesn't have it, ask them. You can also get it online and all of that good stuff. And if you're in Orange County, you can go to her website to book an appointment with her. It's cvwellnessinstitute.com. And again, she's on Big Blend Radio every Wednesday, and keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. So keep up with us with Dr. Jackie. So you go to Big Blend Radio so you don't have a big heart, but you have a good big heart. Does that make sense? No enlarged hearts, but you can have a big heart. Thanks so much, Dr. Jackie.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.